It was all over threads and people were all wigged out about it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's nothing. Okay. I had an 18-year-old with a 40, I think he was 44. Okay. Way back in 2011. Relax, people. And then
Hi, everyone. It's Samantha Tenant, and welcome to another Fresh Fiction Video Book Club. Tonight's guest is Marie Force. She is a New York Times best-selling author of more than 100 contemporary romantic suspense, erotic, just wonderful romance books, more than 15 million copies published worldwide. I have been reading her for years based on a friend's suggestion, and we will get into that. But Marie, first of all, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
thank you. And I want to add, I had this on my calendar for next week, which is why I don't have a lick of makeup on, don't have my hair brushed. What is what you get?
See, it is just raw honesty when we're doing fresh fiction stuff.
Oh,
I mean, yes. Well,
good
let's
thing I
start
was
off.
working late tonight.
Don't you find nowadays you're almost always connected in some way, good or bad? There's always some way somebody can get in touch with you.
Definitely. Yeah. It's pretty all consuming.
When you're working, do you make an effort to somehow get unplugged so that you're not as disturbed, or do you just power
Nope.
through it?
Yeah, I'm doing everything all at once.
Are you able to focus then on your writing, or are you, because you have so many novels, are you working on one at a time, or are you doing the writing and then editing and then marketing? What is your general process like?
Yes, all of that every day. Every single day, there I touch on at least some portion of everything that you listed. I like doing it all. It's never feels like a problem to me or I love it. I love everything about it. I'm that rare author. I like the marketing. I like the videos, the images. I love doing it all. Yeah, I have no complaints about my job.
That's one of the things too. I know, or I've learned over the years too, how important your readers are to you, and that you have and sponsor
Mm.
various reader events that some of our readers have also gone to. And I hear wonderful things about them. What was that impetus for you to give that additional extra back and really connect with your readers in that way, as opposed to just the writing
I
element?
have to say that the initial impetus for that was extremely selfish on my part because my children were still in high school at the time that we started this. In fact, my son would have been, I think, a sophomore in high school, and my daughter was in college, but just a few hours from us. But I was very determined that I was not going to be away from home while they were still home. And she was home a lot while she was in college. I wanted to be with them. And so I could have gone somewhere every weekend if I wanted to, different event, book signings, conventions, whatever. Um, I said no to everything and said to my assistant, who I worked with at a previous job, Julie, who she's a certified meeting professional, which that she comes from the conferences end, and I was in the communications end for the company we worked for before this. And I said, let's bring them to me because I just can't travel right now. And I actually traveled a lot when I was younger because my husband was in the Navy. We lived overseas. We were back and forth on military transport planes, and we did a lot of here, there, and everywhere. And the last thing I want to do anymore is go anywhere. So I've become a super duper homebody. So the fact that we could have an event where the readers could come to me was really key for me at that time. And what's come of it is something that neither of us could have ever imagined in 2014 when we started this, was that the readers who come every year have become like family to each other. And I'm telling you, no more is it about coming to see me. It's about coming to see each other. And so we're not having it this year. And I'm holding off on signing a contract for next year because things are a little unsettled in the world right now. So I'm not sure when we're going to resume, maybe 27, we'll see. But it's been really an unbelievable. We did 10 years in a row, except for 2020. And it's been incredible. I've made some incredible friends through that group. In addition to them being my readers, they're my friends. And I always like to give this one example. We had a teacher come one year from Wisconsin, and every year she came once with her husband. She was adorable. We all loved her. We loved them both. He surprised her with the trip. It was great. And of course, she like became friends with everyone. and we're all friends on Facebook and whatever. And every time she puts up her wish list for her classroom every year, the Reader Weekend crowd like buys it out like within an hour. Like they've got her set up for the year. It's that kind of thing. There was another reader who came to that event who comes every year, and she told me that the only gifts she got for her 50th birthday were from her Reader Weekend friends. It's really become something so much bigger than what we initially envisioned it as, this way for me to connect with the readers, but it's become so much more than that. Something that
Well,
Julie and I are very proud of.
yeah, and I think that's an amazing element with these types of events is that you can bond because you're coming in already with that one thing in common of
Hmm.
nothing else, the loving of reading
And
and
I,
especially of certain books.
they are all just the nicest people you will ever meet. It's like the nicest people. And I say that not just of the people who come to the weekend, but like all of the readers that I am connected to. They're just so, they're lovely people. I very rarely get anything other than beautiful, lovely involvement from my readers. Every so often, oh, my dog's gonna start coughing. He's 17. He makes a lot of noises. Some of them don't sound too good. Yeah, I've just been so blessed. Every so often, I'll get some snarky, crappy email from somebody, but for the most part, I've been extraordinarily blessed with the most lovely readers.
How do you think those events and having such a close interaction with your readers have influenced your writing, especially when you have such long ongoing series?
Every so often, a book comes out of my interactions with them. I'm trying to think of a recent one example I can give you was years ago, like in 2011, I published the first three books in my Treading Water series, and in that series, in the second book, which is the second book I ever wrote after the first, there's a age gap romance in there, and it's extreme. It's like she's 18, he's 40 something, and it's a friend of her dad's that he asks to look out for her while she's in a different city, and she falls in love with him, and at the end of the second book they don't end up together. And because I was thinking at the time, who's going to think that that's going to work? But the most requested thing I have ever had in my entire career was they wanted them back together. And I think it was because I made him a sympathetic character. He had lost his wife years earlier in a car accident when he had a young child that he raised on his own. And I think people really liked him. And they didn't care that he was older than her because she was like the one going after him, too. So I wrote a book where 10 years later they got back together, and the readers were so like they were so happy about that. They wanted that so badly. And I don't know if you guys have seen in the last couple weeks, Abby Jimenez, there's a big dust up about her doing an age gap romance on, it was all over threads and people were all wigged out about it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's nothing. Okay. I had an 18-year-old with a 40, I think he was 44. Okay. Way back in 2011. Relax, people. And then
Right
10
now,
years
we're looking at 10
later,
to 12 age gap.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
ever, as long as everyone's a consenting adult. But it was so funny to me to see that because I'm just like, it's not like it's never been done. It's been done since the beginning of time. And I don't know. It's just funny to me to see people wigging out about it. I think her age gap was something like 23 to 40 or something like that. I'm like, girl, sit down. I got one for you. I meant girls, the people that were freaking out about it, not Abby, but just so funny to me. And honestly, like it was still to me to 13 years later, one of the biggest surprises ever was that they wanted that couple back together. They wanted them back together. So I couldn't believe that. So alas, give the
Okay,
people what
that's
they
what
want.
happened, right?
Yeah, really, I like to listen to stuff like that. I'm trying to think, there was another example of a book that was influenced by something that they said. Oh, I know. This book, State of Alert. There is a murder that happens in that book that has an incredible twist that was the result of the readers freaking out about that character being killed off at the end of book 7. And this is book 8. So yeah, I had a little fun with that in a way that I absolutely would not have done or even thought to do if they hadn't responded the way they did. Because I like to end the first family books with like literally a cliffhanger that's a single sentence. It's not like some huge unfinished. I don't do unfinished, the cliffhangers that piss everyone off. I do more of a end of a TV show where there's a little something that makes you, oh my God, I got it. Can't wait to read the next book. It's a sentence. And so I don't want anyone to get it, the idea. I'm not a big cliffhanger person, but I'll tell you what, ending the first family books with a little something has really been beneficial because the pre-orders and the sales of that series is unlike anything I've ever seen. They are so rabid for more of those books, and I can't help but think it has something to do with that little tiny little nugget
Extra little. When
at
do you
the
come up with that part of it then? Is it something that you're going in after the fact of, okay, now I've gotten everything. Now here's the kicker, or is
it's just some point. I can't even say when it happens. It's sometimes I know maybe three-quarters of the way in that it would be cool if such and such a thing happened or whatever at the end, but I'm not really sure when. Sometimes it's during, sometimes it's at the end. I don't know. Sometimes I pull it out of thin air. One of the cliffhangers at the end of the first family books is that there is a bomb at the gate to the White House. And that literally came out of nowhere. I don't know. Another time they have taken in orphaned twins as of book 13 in the Fatal series. And so now that they're at the White House, the twins' grandparents are suing for custody. Like that was the cliffhanger at the end of the first book in this new first family series because they don't want the twins living at the White House. But really, what they want is their hands on the late billionaire father's money. That had the readers flipping out for months until the next book came out. So from April to December, every day, that was what we talked about. Every day. Yeah. And then they keep wanting me to tell them, okay, so they're not going to actually get custody of the twins, are they? I'm like, I really don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? So, and then I've got a vice president in this series, Gretchen Henderson, who's my character, Sam, who, for people who haven't read this series, Sam is a lieutenant with the DC Police Department, Metro PD. And she has retained her job as first lady with a Secret Service detail. And she took one look at the woman that her husband chose to be his vice president because he became president when the previous president dropped dead, and shockingly, and he became president overnight, and then he had to pick a vice president. So he wanted to be the first to have a woman vice president. And so he picks this real firebrand, and she's beautiful. And Sam takes one look at her and just has this like visceral negative reaction to her. And there you should see like the conspiracy theories. Oh my God, it's like they're so off. I've got to the point where I can't even look at them because they make me laugh so hard. They are all the way down the road. I can't even tell you some of the stuff they've come up with. And then they'll say to me, are we close? And I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I'm like, I won't know until she does. If there's an issue with this person, I'll find out when she does. And they're like, what does that even mean? So I can't explain
I'm
the sheer.
frustrating with them a little bit of like, what do you mean you don't know? I mean, isn't all of this stuff ironed out? But on the
No.
flip side, I realize, and it's fantastic that there's still so much excitement with this series. And I am thrilled to hear of the uptakes and how everyone's just constantly going in. Okay, where's the next one? Because
Yeah.
this was okay. Sam and Nick, it was the Fatal series where I first learned about you. And this is back when it first came out. A friend from book club, it was summer. She came back and she said, oh, you've got to read Marie Force. It's the Fatal series. She was after me always. She's like, okay, have you read it? Have you read it? Okay, come on. So this, between the Fatal series and the First Family, this is over 26 books now.
I'm right in the 25th. And then there's also two novellas. Yeah, 26-ish. But I'm writing the 25th full length right now.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
that's
since
a
in
lot of
15
story.
years. Yeah, in 15 years. And I can show you to celebrate that we're doing special editions, which I happen to have right here. Let me put an actual light on. You can see them now. We're going to be making some changes to the spines, but this is the last book.
Oh, wow.
Um, and they're really beautiful. I've just gotten all the proofs. So this is what they look like on the inside.
Oh, no, you gotta tilt it down a little bit more. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they're gorge.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so all the spines, when they come together, will make a image of DC that is really cool. But we're making a couple of
Fun
changes to the
next
spines, though.
bookshelves, yes.
Yeah, I don't have a bookshelf here. I'm actually away from home at the moment. So that's the best I could do is to stack them up like that. But yeah, so the proofs have been coming to me here and I can't stop staring at them. They're just gorgeous. So it'll be 15 years on June 20th since Fatal Affair was released. And Sam and Nick are still very much a part of my life 15 years later. So I've been writing them for 17 years.
And do you find it sometimes challenging of, okay, and what are we going to do next? Where is it going to go?
Mm-mm. I don't
You
know why.
get back into it?
I don't know why. I've already got an idea for the next one. I'm like going to start laying some groundwork for that. And this one, they are just the gift that keeps on giving. I'm never going to run out of stuff to write about for them because they have two jobs that are nonstop between his career and hers, and then all the associated people around them and story that there's just so much. It's hard to keep the books to the length that I try to keep them to, which is like between 100 and 110,000 words, which is long in this day and age. People consider 50,000 a full-length novel anymore. So basically, I'm writing two full-length novels for every one. And then I had this just arrive too. This is my next book,
Oh,
which is book 9 in the Quantum series. And the couple on the cover are my parents' best friends from the night before their wedding in 1958.
oh,
And
wow.
this is like a old time Hollywood couple who hit a big, big marital roadblock the day before their 50th anniversary. Yeah, like a blast from his past like erupts out of nowhere. And yeah, so somebody in Hollywood is writing a tell-all memoir that's going to blow the lid off a secret he's kept from his wife for 50 years. Yeah, so
When you bounce different series, do you see those as a break almost, or is it another recharge? Or is it like, oh, can't wait to
So
get back?
Quantum was done, right? Quantum was finished in 2019 with Famous, book 8. And I have to say, if you guys haven't read me, go read those 8 books because I just reread them and I flip and love those books. They're the steamiest things I've ever written. There's a little kinkiness in there that was way outside of my comfort zone, but boy, oh boy, do I love those books. I want to say they're 6 of the best romances I've ever written. Just unbelievable. Like I love them because I just had to reread them for the first time in years. And I was like, oh my God, I've missed these people so much. I wasn't going to write another book in that series until I saw that photo. Because she's still living. She's going to be 98 in May. And she showed me that photo a couple years ago, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do something with that photo. I want to do something with that photo. And from that came the idea to write a story for my main character in the Quantum series. Flynn Godfrey is a world famous movie star, and his parents are Max Godfrey and Stella Flynn. So the combination of their names is his name, and he's an Academy Award winner multiple times over and huge star. And he's like the main character of Quantum, him and his wife, and his girlfriend, and then his wife. But these are his parents that are the featured in Illustrious, and yeah, like that picture gave me the idea to do something with them. And it took off from there. And then my friend Arlene, so her husband died in 2015. Both of my parents are gone. And so Arlene is the oldest of all of them and the last one standing. She keeps saying to me, like, when are you going to write that book with us on the cover? Because I'm not going to live forever. Okay. Sharp as a tack, still going strong, out at the casino, doing just, yeah, but I'm going to be able to give her a copy of that book next Thursday. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, she's already gotten bookmarks in the mail. So
It's going to be different when she actually is able to hold it in her hands.
I can't wait. I'm literally cannot wait. I'm so excited to see her. Like I'm in Florida right now and she is at her daughter's 2 towns over from us. So we're going to get together next Thursday. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait because I don't remember a time when they weren't part of our lives. I really don't. And she has 4 daughters who I refer to as my sisters, and I'm the fifth daughter, and we've just always stayed very close. And we have, she and I have so much fun together, but I can't wait. I just literally cannot wait to give her this book. So I had a couple copies sent to me like overnight so that I could get one to her right away. And then she couldn't do it till next Thursday. Like, I'm like,
Like,
hello, what do you mean? And she goes, oh, we've got a lot going on. I'm like, you're 97. You're supposed to be available at a moment's notice.
Marie, I want to switch over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. These are a series of quick, off the top type questions. Some of them we've been known to stump people, but that's not really the intention. So just what
Okay.
immediately comes to mind, okay? All right. You've been kidnapped, but they return you 2 hours later because you will not stop talking about what?
Harvey Specter from Suits.
Hey, that's worth it. Okay. Yeah. All right. You can go with that one.
There's so many reasons they'd bring me back. Okay. Literally, I wish my cousin was here right now. Oh my God, she'd be rolling. She'd be screaming with laughter. That is the least of why they'd bring you back. First of all, I need a bathroom every 5 minutes. Okay. That alone is going to be a problem for my kidnappers. Excuse me, I have to pee. Like, we just stopped for you. No, again,
Yes.
this is why. Okay. There's a lot of this going on.
Iron supposed to hydrate people. Okay. This is
Yes.
yes. Okay. What is something that you own a ridiculous amount of other than books?
Boats.
Boats? How many boats do
I
you
have three
own?
boats. I have three boats. But what's funny about that is I inherited my parents' boat when my dad died. It's a 36 footer. Okay. Everybody thinks, oh, wow, that's amazing. Right. I saw a boat for sale in our area of Rhode Island where I live year round. And it was like the same era of boat, all the same bells and whistles. The engines are much newer for $16,000. I'm like, okay, so I have the fanciest, most worthless boat on the planet, along with two smaller ones. So my husband and I joke that we have 67 feet of boat, but that's worth a grand total of maybe $20,000. And that's two outboard motors. So I have a ridiculous amount of boats.
You have options.
It's just so funny. People hear three boats. They're like, oh, look at you. I'm like, worthless. Okay. They are worthless. And actually, the big boat is like a millstone around my neck. It's like having another child that I have to tend to. Because you can't just put a 2-ton object just anywhere. Okay. Accommodations must be made. So stupid. As my husband and I call it, that freaking boat.
And you have that painted on the side, huh? Is that
No,
the
no, I
thing?
don't, but I should. I should have a big middle finger on the side. And you know what's really funny is we've that boat, this will be our 37th year with it in our family, right? Which is just ludicrous, okay? People don't keep boats that long. We do. And the whole time, my dad died at 84. So from the minute he was like 75 on, he was over it. And I'm like, what do you mean you're over it? I'm not over it. So he literally kept it because he knew I would want it. And now I've had 7 years of full-time ownership of that boat. And oh my God, I'm like dad at 80. I'm like, oh, like, it. Suddenly I'm like an 80-year-old going, oh, we got to go deal with the boat. It's a beautiful, lovely, wonderful thing when from in July and August in Newport, Rhode Island, it's lovely and fabulous. The whole rest of the year, it's okay. They say it's a boat is a hole in the water you throw money into. And
Oh, yeah.
that is true. But
No.
we've always had boats a whole time growing up, so I don't know what I would do without one, but I'm actually getting to the point where I might like to find out.
Okay. Would you rather travel back in time and meet your ancestors or go forward in time and meet your descendants?
Ancestors.
And about how far back do you want to go?
I would like to go back one generation and meet the grandfather I never knew, who died when my dad was 19, died suddenly when my dad was 19. And there's like this missing piece, and I would like to meet him. And I'd like to see my other grandparents again too. That would be good enough. I don't like to know what's going to happen in the future, so I would never want to go forward.
If you knew it was going to be real, would you rather run into a ghost or an alien?
Is neither an option?
It's a very good option, yes.
Yeah. I have no suspension of disbelief button, which is why I can't read fantasy or paranormal, or I just would be like, whatever. If I ran into a ghost or an alien, I'd be like, no, you're not.
What is the book that you keep going back to, that you're most dog-eared, and be it either for research or just to read for pleasure?
See, this is always tough for me because writing these long series that are like one's at 28 books and one's at 25 books, and then there's others with, I read very little that isn't something I wrote myself because I'm constantly having to reread for continuity. And so I don't really have one book that I will say I have an original 1972 first edition of Love Story.
Oh,
That is one of my prized possessions. I always loved that book, and I found that at a yard sale like 40 years ago, something like that. And I still have it.
okay, this is taking me on another tangent, other than the fresh fiction facts.
Mhm.
So, movie or book? Okay, if you have the love story book, did you also enjoy the movie?
I did enjoy the movie. I liked vintage Ryan O'Neal before he became a complete jackass. I liked them both. Oh my God, love means never having to say you're sorry. And yes,
And then did you read Oliver's story?
I did. I did. I've read all of his books. Yes. I was, yes. I was a big fan of that book back in the day. Yeah.
That was
I
one of
like
those
to think that
classic
that's
books that
maybe,
my dad had me read. You need to read this. I'm like, oh, okay. It was great.
oh my God, it's amazing. And it's one of those books you can read in 2 hours. It's amazing to me like how quick of a read it is. And I still remember one of the main lines, like when he did something that he'd never done in his father's presence, let alone in his arms, and he sobbed and just so like, it was so good. And but I also think like books like that and early Danielle Steele, I really give early Danielle Steele a lot of credit for me wanting to do this career. Like books like way back, okay, way back. Season for Passion, where the woman is faithful to the football player husband who had a brain injury, and she goes to visit him, and like just they're then Perfect Stranger, the woman who has the old man husband who's confined to the bed, and she sneaks out to meet this other guy. And I can vividly remember just the absolute impact of those books, you know what I mean? Like just and I like books that she wrote 40 years ago are books I'm talking about here. Going Home, The Promise, Now and Forever. I was all in on her, all in. And it was, I remember to say that I read these books like when I was a kid 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. Who am I trying to fool? A lot of years ago. And I still remember the plots. What does that tell you? They made a mark, and just love story. And another favorite of mine from my early reading years was The Thornbirds. Okay, so you want to hear a good story about that?
Of course.
So I read it the summer I was 14. I was raised as a good Catholic girl in a nice Catholic family. And if you know about the Thornbirds, it's about a priest who falls in love with a girl whose family lives on a sheep station in New South Wales, Australia. And it's very scandalous. Okay. So my mom, who basically made me the reader and the writer that I became, she was so proud of me carrying that brick of a book around because the thing is about this thick, right? All summer long, she'd be like telling everyone, look at her, she's a reader. I'm so proud. And then she's, so what's it about? I'm like, oh, it's
Oh
about
no.
she goes, I go, it's about a sheep station in Australia. She goes, and you're finding that interesting? I'm like, yeah, I really am. And then she read it after me.
Yikes. Just a little bit.
You told me it's about a sheep station. I'm like, well, it was.
Yeah, technically, yeah, it
That
was. Yeah.
wasn't a lie. I could still hear her screaming in her bedroom because
My
I
goodness.
Her 14-year-old had already read this. One of my favorite things ever.
Yeah, I had a couple of those with my mom too.
She was so proud. Look at her. She's been carrying that book around all. She wanted us
I
both,
think
my
that makes
brother
it
and I, to
worse a
both
little
be
bit, right?
readers.
Because she's like bragging on you the entire time and pointing out to everyone, "Oh, look at what she's reading! Isn't this fantastic?"
I know. I wonder how many of the people she told it to were like, "Oh."
Oh,
It was so funny because she wanted my brother and I to be readers. She used to put us to bed with books while our friends were still outside playing and we could hear them. And we never let her forget that. We were all over her about that. And to this day, neither one of us can go to bed without reading something. In fact, my brother said to me once, if I ever end up in prison, make sure you get me my Kindle. And I'm like, why are you going to be in prison? He's, that's not the point of this story. Okay. This is
exactly.
not what
Yes.
we're talking about. He goes, it's like the one thing I wouldn't be able to be without. So yeah, we're both big readers. And my mom actually died before all of this book writing thing happened. She died in 2004. And I didn't finish my first book until 2005 and wasn't published until '08. So she missed this whole thing, but I like to think that maybe she's making it happen. So
I was able to read some of your initial chapters, though.
she was, yes, just the very, very beginning of Treading Water. Yeah, which was my first book, and she said it made her cry, and that was, like, the same month she died that she read that, yeah. But
Mhm.
I like to think that maybe people say to me, "Where do you get all these ideas?" And I'm like to think I have no idea. I'm like, think maybe it's coming from her, so I'd like to think so.
If you suddenly get some other inspirations about a sheep farm, that
Oh, I'll never
I
forget
think that's one you need to follow. Yep.
I swear to God, in my mind's eye e in my mind, I can hear her shrieking. "He's falls in love with the girl!" In fact, that book was recently a sale at Kindle, and I grabbed it just to have it on my Kindle. Maybe I'll reread it and freak out all over again like I'm her.
I read this when I was what? Oh my gosh.
And then when my husband and I were first married, we lived in Spain because he was in the Navy, and we were in Spain for 3 years. And a big part of it, we lived off base, which means we had no real TV. We only had Spanish TV. So we had a TV and a VCR. And we could rent movies back in the day when you still rented movies. We watched one of the first things we ever did when we'll be married 33 years. We watched the Thornbirds and we watched Roots. We watched all the long North and South and all the big miniseries that were on video at the time. But with Thornbirds was one of them. And I have to say that what's his name? Richard Chamberlain. He did a good job in that part.
Yeah, I've been watching some other older Richard Chamberlain because my dad's a big fan of Shogun. So with the
Mm.
remake, we had to go back and he kept on saying, "Oh, you got to watch this other one." And then, okay,
I was just looking at that on Hulu. I might watch the new one. I've never watched the old one, but I might watch the new one.
this is still the recorded portion, but I'll tell you, my dad was a much bigger fan of the older version. It was a lot more
Okay. The new one won all kinds of awards.
sorts of awards, but very, it depends on what you're going for. The new one, a lot more realistic. The older one has all the romanticism, grandeur,
Yeah, I would like that more.
a little
Plus,
bit.
it has Richard Chamberlain, apparently. Okay.
Where is the best? One of the most important questions is where is the best place for readers to keep up with you and find out what's coming next, what's going on?
Up Update my Facebook almost every day. So Facebook is go to my page. My profile I keep for personal people that I know. So go to my page. It's at facebook.com/Marie Force Author. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, which goes out weekly at marieforce.com/subscribe. And you can see a full list of my books at marieforce.com/books.
Awesome. Marie, thanks for joining us. And to all of our readers and listeners, be sure, go out. There is a lot of books that you can choose from by Marie, lots of series. And the latest, of course, is State of Alert in the First Family series. It's awesome. I've been reading this series pretty much since it came out. So this has been a long time.
15 years. And you can also, most of my books and series are in KU as well. I want to say that. So almost
Fantastic.
everything is in KU.
See,
Everything, really everything is
easy
in
for you
KU.
guys to find stuff then.
Yeah, except for the books that I don't control. There's still 6 books that a publisher has that I can't seem to wrest back from them. But those are the only books that are not in KU.
So again, State of Alert by fantastic best-selling New York Times best-selling author Marie Force. Marie, thank
Makeup
you for
free,
joining us.
hairbrush free,
Honest, real life stories.
feral.
So stick around for the happy hour with readers directly from who will be asking you questions directly.
Okay.